What exactly is Christmas? And what are the astounding implications that go along with this so-called celebration? If one looks to the Romans, they celebrated this point of time in the yearly calendar in what was known as Saturnalia, which was an orgiastic festival in Rome that honored Saturn. During this time of year, each December, were 12 days of excessive eating, drinking, promiscuity, and sexual orgies, as well as every kind of debauchery that one can imagine. This is where the modern 12 days of Christmas has its links, with the number 12 being symbolic of the 12 months on the calendar, but more importantly in the Roman era, the 12 ages of the zodiac. Less known is the fact that this celebration was also known as Bacchanalia, which was tied to Dionysus, who is typically depicted as carrying around a thyrsus, which is a staff that is tipped with a pine cone. This is the same staff that is symbolically carried around by the various popes of the Vatican. The word Bacchus is a Latin noun that means kind of sea fish, and also translates as god of wine or vine, connecting Dionysus to the Jesus character who is associated with the fish and is also a god of wine, as depicted in the biblical allegory of Jesus turning water into wine, alluding to the fact that the water in our body turns into wine or blood. The sus from Jesus, sus, is a Latin word that means swine, pig, and a kind of fish, showing us in the words that Jesus, sus, truly is another formation of the Dionysus character. Add in the aspects of being a swine and pig, and we have the connection to the festival that honors Saturn with its excessive drinking, eating, partying, sexuality, and debauchery. By doing all of this, one is displaying themselves as a pig. Also associated with all of this is the fact that Bacchus, Dionysus, Jesus, is a kind of sea fish, indicating the sea of outer space, meaning extraterrestrial, and is the main basis for the bishops, popes wearing their fish hats, otherwise called the mitre, which is known as the liturgical headdress worn by bishops on formal occasions. What formal occasion? The liturgy, of course, which is phonetically the litter G, indicating the litter of G known as Saturn, the left dead sun. A litter is the offspring of one birth of a mammal, and humans are a form of mammal. Another synonym for the liturgy is the Lord's Supper, because humans are the litter of G, being raised as supper for the kind of sea fish extraterrestrial gods. And humanity is ritualistically and symbolically giving them their meals as a gift when celebrating Christmas. How is this done? The thyrsus pine cone tip staff is in actuality the staff known as the spine, with the pineal gland of the brain sitting at its tip. The pineal gland is our God superconsciousness connection to what we truly are, and this is being ritualistically given away when people set up their pine trees every year and put their boxes of Saturn worship underneath them as gifts. The pine tree represents the pineal gland and the tree of life, which is the human spine. And when putting boxed gifts underneath the pine, humans are symbolizing a fact of this reality, that you are giving away your kingdom, pineal gland, God, superconsciousness connection, seat of your soul, to those who now use us as food energy. This is the gift of life given to the extraterrestrial sea fish, seeing that the legal acronym GIFT means gamete intrafallopian tube transfer, showing us that by symbolically and energetically putting the boxed gifts underneath the pine tree, people are giving their newborn children and themselves away to the extraterrestrial sea fish of Saturn. This enables the false gods to take the seat of our soul. What humans need to become aware of is that these acts symbolically carry a waveform of energy that reverberates throughout the universe and is read as a signature. This signature sine wave of energy can be used as a form of contract for those who are willing to take advantage of the situation. And that is precisely what is happening right now, especially through these ritualistic forms of traditional celebration. By symbolizing through the act of putting boxes underneath the pine tree, you are energetically sending a waveform signature, sine wave, to the ETs of Saturn and telling them that you would no longer like to have the seat of your own throne in your kingdom of the mind. The ETs take this wavelength energy signature and say, "Thank you very much for your gift," and create what is known as the legal Satan Clause, or Santa Claus, which is how they are able to take our 10 or X chromosomes from the moon, the double cross, and use them to create more children through the scientific gamete intrafallopian tube transfer process. Remember, we are all living in our iPods, believing that we are physically touching each other. The truth of the matter is that we simply exist together within the matrix energy field and are only mentally coexisting with our minds, making everything seem like it's physical. Since we are unable to actually physically procreate with each other, this entire reality was constructed so that we believe everything to be physical, when it's all created through our pineal electric consciousness field, which is now controlled by them. That's why the gift is so important, because when we electrically release some of our DNA through the sexual act, it creates a bell or a ding sound so that the ETs can then take that DNA and match it to the other iPod that you thought that you had a physical relationship with. This is why we are all pretending within this play that's an act, because it's all a divine comedy where our water is turned into wine, blood, through the fountain of youth, meaning the youth of more children. It's a comedy because we are all kidding around with each other to make more kids for the ETs and the Lord's Supper. We do this by ting, because a ting is also the metallic sound of a small bell, which means that we are extending ourselves and our kin to be used as food. So many humans cannot wait to have another little munchkin, and the gods cannot wait to munch the kin either. It's also how we are born again, because we are the humans made out of star stuff that are restarting our lives over and over again. That's all an ejaculation is. The pineal gland feeling the sensation of the electric field that we are imprisoned by. It is also a form of payment, as shown by the Latin word latio, from ejaculation and relation, meaning right, proposal of law, entering payment, a rendering of accounts. A payment given to the hawk god named Ra, Ray, that we are in hawk debt towards, because humanity has been pawned. This is all written in the Satan clause, because a clause is an article or section of a legal document, whereby the ET gods of Saturn legally own the X chromosome, which is the moon. This is the reason that all females carry 2 X chromosomes with their moon eggs that drop every month, because the X is the female chromosome that is found in pairs in each egg. This is why humanity has been Freemasonically double-crossed, indicating the 2 X or crossed chromosomes, which were genetically crossed within the natural human DNA. Once this was accomplished, it created a sine wave energy signature of duality within our mitochondrial DNA, which the ETs could then use as polarized energy. Mitochondrial DNA is the DNA that is inherited solely from the mother, which is what creates the opposite charge in the human biology. Sunlight is the opposite of moonlight. This is the basis of "Let there be light" from the book of Genesis, or the genes of Isis, moon, and also humanity becoming as one of us, to know both good and evil. By interpairing these 2 separate aspects, there was a genetic tension, existence, that was created within the male genes to keep pulling the creation aspect forward, with a need to keep releasing the X chromosome that was paired with the male Y. This is symbolized by the Hermetic caduceus, which is also known as the Wand of Mercury, again indicating our spinal column and the polarized ionization crossing that happens along its columns. To this day, the caduceus is still the insignia used by the medical profession, which blatantly proves to us through the symbol that our DNA was medically tampered with by the snake time gods of Saturn. Santa is an anagram for Satan, and Satan is Satan, which is the X chromosome of the moon. X is the Roman numeral for 10 and the binary code of matrix DNA duality that was created within us to keep the X tension cord of energy going for Saturn, which is celebrated and energetically symbolized through the December events of Saturnalia, which now simply goes under the name of Christmas. The same Christmas that celebrates Satan, Old Nick, as a purveyor of gifts, when in fact it is the other way around. Saint Nick, Old Nick, is, by basic definition, the chief spirit of evil and adversary of God, who is the tempter of mankind and master of hell. Still not convinced? The Indonesian word setan translates into English as Old Nick, and Old Nick translates into the Turkish language as Shaitan and Iblis, both sharing the translated synonyms of demon, devil, Satan, adversary, Old Harry, and the evil one. The Filipino language concurs with Old Nick, becoming Satanas, and the Finnish language has the word piru, meaning devil, Dickens, Old Nick. The Russian language showcases it in the same detail with its word diavol, which is the noun for devil, fiend, demon, Satan, Old Nick, Belial, serpent, hellhound. And as a Russian phrase can also translate as evil one, old gentleman, old enemy, old scratch, and his satanic majesty. There are many more languages that show this connection, but I think the point is proven. Still believe that this tradition is harmless and innocent? Santa, Satan, rides on his sleigh, which is phonetically slay, because humanity is being slayed by Satan, who goes down the chimney, which is nothing more than an allegorical way of saying the chimney of the human spine. Everything is in reverse with this one though, because Satan, Old Nick, is riding up the spine with his reindeer, to reign over everyone and collect the gifts, X and Y chromosomes, that have been laid underneath the pine tree, pineal gland, top of the spine, from all of the bell rings that occurred throughout the year. Pre-10 dings, found 10 of youth, may tings, re-star tings. This is why the bell is also a big part of the Christmas symbolism. As per Saturn time symbolism and Phoenician law of the sea, there are 8 half-hour units of nautical time that are signaled by the strokes of a ship's bell. For example, 8 bells would signal 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, or 12 o'clock, either AM or PM. Each time a human makes a sexual payment, the bell of the pineal gland rings and dings to signal that another egg can be laid, because the genetics will be collected as per the Satan clause on December 25th of that year. Another egg that will be laid by Halcyon for the East Star on what is known as Easter. Easter, of course, is East Star. As per the usual sadistic sexual innuendo that is so prevalent in everything occult, this would also be known as the Jingle Bell Rock of the holiday season. The ribs of the human body are where the semen are located, and this is the basis in the Bible of why God, the Saturn ETs, took a rib from Adam, the atom, and gave it to Eve, the moon electron. Our human ribs are the allegorical antlers of the reindeer, as Satan rides up the spine chimney to come and collect the gifts that humanity has symbolically placed underneath their pine trees, pineal glands. Here you go, Satan. Merry Christmas. This will most likely offend many, but the evidence is often harsh, especially when conjoined with the fact that so many humans have participated in the Christmas tradition that celebrates all of this for countless years. Nothing in this reality is what most people think it is. Nothing. As I related in the Golden Web Part 2, the kidneys are two of the magical beings that are part of the reproduction and energy creation process. And this is also shown in the Christmas allegory when we look at the word rain from reindeer. The French word rein translates as kidney, and the German rein means chaste, pure, uncorrupted, virgin, as related to the Dutch rein, meaning chaste. To be chaste means to abstain from unlawful sexual intercourse, and the story of the Virgin Mary, Moon, giving immaculate birth to Jesus is about all of us. We are the ones who remain chaste, pure, virgin, uncorrupted, because we are only mentally consummating our relationships while believing our acts to be physical within this hologram matrix construct. We are separated by our cocoon iPods and only interact with each other through electrical signals that the brain interprets as being physical. In this way, we all remain virgins, and every single new birth is immaculately conceived through the gamete intrafallopian tube transfer process, given as a Christmas gift from every human who chooses to conceive to the ET gods who grow us in their garden of Eden, or the Eden of Saturn. In part 2, I also showed how the ren in chilled ren is the Latin word for kidneys, name of a precious stone, and the Swedish ren, that means clean, clear, pure, which obviously connects in the language web with the German rein and Dutch rein, pure, virgin, clean, chaste, etc. The kidneys obviously also help our biology cleanse everything, which makes it clean, clear, and pure. This is why there is also reincarnation, because a carnation is a flower, and we produce the pure virgin flower, more sexual innuendo, to make the bread, who are reincarnated, which are virgin, clean, clear, and pure, all over again. This could also be known as reincarnated, because the word natal is definitionally of or relating to the place or time of one's birth. This word is etymologically rooted in the Portuguese Natal, meaning Christmas, Noel, Yule, Nativity. The Indonesian language also shows the Christmas connection of birthing children with its word Natal, meaning Noel, Christmas. Many might automatically assume that this can only mean the birth of their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but that wouldn't be advancing the evidence without looking at the basic history of the terminology. The word natal is historically rooted in the Latin natalis, meaning birthday, date of birth, founding, manufacture, and origin. There is nothing in the history that states that this word was about the single and individual birth of a man named Jesus. It simply meant birthplace, or place of origin. The deer in reindeer is cognate with the word dough, which is the phonetic dough made from the flower, or carnation, reincarnation, that makes the bread. I broke up the aspect of dough also being roe, or eggs, in the Golden Web Part 2, and will not reiterate everything here. But the other aspect to consider is that a deer is also connected to the heart, because the word deer translates into the Dutch hert, Norwegian hjort, Swedish hjort, while the English word heart is definitionally a red male deer. The word deer also gives us the conjoined indication as to why candy canes are also an integral part of this tradition. By spelling deer backwards, we get the anagram of reed, and reed translated into French becomes roseau, meaning cane, reed. The candy cane of the reindeer, which is simply another allegorical way of indicating the spinal column. If we split up this French word into its prefix and suffix, we get rus and o, whereby rus is the Norwegian word for praise, indicating the praise and worship given to the religious savior characters that the archons would like everyone to believe that Christmas is all about. Roos is also the Dutch word for horse, indicating the horse of the moon, which is the double X chromosome that is being given as a gift to Saturn each year. By conjoining the Dutch and Norwegian translations, we are also being told to praise the horse, because the horse is the savior moon egg coming to rescue you for your next rebirth. Digging a little further, one can also find that the Swedish rus translates into English as rose, linking the pagan aspect that the sun rose again on the 25th of December after being dead from the previous 3 days of December 22nd to the 24th. This is also celebrated and praised because of the great importance that the sun has on all life forms on Earth. Not only that, the Latin ros translates as do, and when we look at the word do in English, it retranslates into the Croatian rosa, Czech rosa, French rosé, Serbian rosa, and Spanish rocio. The 32 directional degrees of the rose qua, or compass rose, of the calendrical year have been rotated through on December 25th, and a new rotation has come about. The moon has taken the dominant throne position of the northern hemisphere, while the sun is seated in the south. The crossing of the sun and moon has completed itself, and the German word Tau also means dew, rope, lashing, as linked with the lashing that one would receive when their debt is past due, also shown in the language connections, and is further connected to the Hebrew toe, the 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which means cross. Any other connections to the term due? If we go back to the French word roseau and take the suffix of o, we get the French word for water, which is technically what dew is. Phonetically, the word due becomes due, and when the year is over, the payment of debt, hawk, is due, and is collected by the hawk of Saturn through the Christmas gifts of our pineal gland, placed under the pine tree of the spine. This is also the reason why banks will send statements for an account being due or past due, indicating that the payment needs to be received before the next full moon. Dew was seen by the Rosicrucians as an elixir of life and key to the philosopher's stone, and dew was said by them to be the collector of moonlight. The word month is derived from the word moon, which is based on the 13-month lunar calendar of 28 days, totaling 364 days, with one day typically set aside for reflection. This is why everything in the Uniform Commercial Code of Phoenician commerce law is to this day based upon the monthly cycle of payments and interest. Therefore, when one is late on their payment, they are said to be past due, hence past due. Alchemists have almost always stated that the best time to collect dew was during the waxing, growing phase of the moon. When based on the commercial law of the sea, this is why merchants would collect what is due to them, with the full payment of their loans expected to be paid back to them with interest no later than the full moon, or rotation of the monthly cyclical period. If this payment was not received, they would find the debtor, dead-or, to punish them with what is known as the cat o' nine tails whip. How is this found in the language? Right from the word due again. The English due translates into the Swedish dag, meaning dew, and cat o' nine tails, which is a leather whip that was used on ships against someone who committed a crime or error against the captain or crew of a ship. This punishment and whipping was done on the main deck of the ship, with everyone on board watching the spectacle. If someone did not pay their debts to the Phoenician merchants, they were said to be, which is the Swedish term for damp, moisture, obviously synonyms for dew. This was the first method used as a warning to the debtor. Pay up or you're... If the debtor did not pay, they were killed and buried in the banks of the river. To this day, all commercial dead is buried in the banks. This is furthermore why the word mortgage, coming from the French mort and gage, quite literally means death pledge. You are signing your life away, and the Phoenician sea merchants of space take this seriously. It is also why a court magician called a magistrate or judge decides the death sentence of cap it all capital punishment while sitting on the banks of the debt. This is the reason that all court rulings are based on commercial law. How is the magistrate, magician, judge sitting on the banks of the dead? Because the word bench, court of queen's bench, etc., is derived from the Latin banca, meaning bench, bank, mound, money changer's table, while the Turkish word banka also translates into English as bench. The court judges are quite literally giving everyone with a capital name the death penalty. Do you have a cap-it-all name because you have been turned into a piece of liquidated capital? That's the basis of the birth certificate that practically everyone uses as their form of subconscious ID. Go ahead, check all of your ID or banking information and even statements, bills. You will find that your name is always spelled in all capital letters, indicating that you are a dated ship that was birthed in water, liquid dated. This is why your birth date is one of the most relevant parts of this whole operation when the Archon controllers ask you for your military citizenship information. To liquidate something is to eliminate it entirely to pay off a debt. When a parent signs the live birth certificate in the hospital after their child is born, this becomes the evidence that the parent has agreed to turn their child into a piece of liquidated capital. The live birth certificate goes to the government, which in turn sends this off to their headquarters in Baby London, Babylon, London. The government in return sends a death certificate that looks similar to the live birth certificate, except for the most significant key difference. The name is spelled in all capital letters. We are all declared to have been stillborn. It is the Archons that have done this because we are now anchored by them in our iPods. The anagram for Archon is anchor. You can be certain that most news anchors are also Archons. What is another basic definition of liquidated? To get rid of someone who may be a threat by killing them. We are the ones who have been killed and liquidated to pay off the dead debt and keep the battery energy cycle moving forward. In Latin, the all caps name is known as Capitis Diminutio Maxima, which is a Roman law that stripped a citizen of all their rights and status and turned them into a slave. Check your driver's license, social insurance number, SIN, banking information, passport, etc., and confirm for yourself the truth of the matter. That's why the price of sin, the moonboat rescue and resurrection rebirth, is death, debt. None of this is allegorical. Massive amounts of personal cap-it-all debt is accumulated during the so-called holiday shopping season. People rack up debt, and a rack is another torture device that was used by the sea merchant creditors, seeing that it is by definition something that stretches, disjoints, and mutilates victims who are placed upon it. This is related back to the Christmas allegory, the judge on the bank bench, pine trees and the pineal gland that is being mentally tortured through the Norwegian word pinbank, which translates as rack. The prefix of pin is the Norwegian term for torture, and the suffix word bank is Norwegian for bench. Therefore, the pineal gland, pine tree of the spine, is receiving torture on the rack from the judge who sits on the bench. To rack up debt is not a meaningless and empty saying. It has torturous connotations and intentions behind it. How did I find the connection to the Swedish dag being a translation for cat o' nine tails? From the book Times of Linnaeus, a series of Swedish historical romances in 6 cycles, written by Zacharias Topelius. Here is the excerpt from the book on page 26. If that isn't enough evidence, here is a Swedish book dictionary of Swedish names and expressions, with the word dag being shown to also carry the connotation of cat o' nine tails. Here is the information for this book in both Swedish and English. What does the Swedish neosvansad mean? This word translates into English as tailed demon. This is why the devil is always in the D tails. How is the dew connected to the moon? If we go back to the Swedish, there is a Swedish synonym of mes that means wet, and mes is also the Spanish word for month, as connected to the calendrical aspect of monthly cyclical timekeeping. The moon has been set up to be the Antichrist false light savior that wants to keep you locked into this time prison matrix. This is the first light that everyone would see upon death, because the archons are only interested in getting us to ante up in their Antichrist false moonlight of rebirth, death repayment, where we take another chance on their gambling game of life, Wheel of Fortune zodiac circus ride. Even the English verb ante simply means pay, because it is all about paying the dead debt or hawk of Ray. Some scholars have even attributed the title of Christos as literally meaning healing moon man, while the Mother Mary was the Alma, or moon maiden young virgin. This was derived from the name Alma, a Middle Eastern name of the moon goddess, which was the same word used in the Hebrew version of the biblical Gospels to describe the Virgin Mary. As I have already depicted in other works, the moon is the savior light that is sent by the David, star of David, Saturn, to rescue the dead. This is the basis of the biblical book of Revelations, indicating to us that there will be a false savior during the end times of our own life, called the Antichrist. I take this to mean that the first light that each human is manipulated to go into upon death is false, because the only true light is within ourselves. There is no outside savior. How much conditioning and propaganda does this reality force onto everyone about needing an outside savior? This is not an accident, because the system needs us to believe in the lie that there is someone or something out there that is going to rescue us. We have to trust ourselves and be our own saviors. That's probably one of the biggest steps to take on the journey to being free from this battery womb operated electricity cycle of insanity. If all that isn't enough, the abbreviation for Christmas is Xmas, showing us again that this is a celebration about the gift of the X chromosome that was given to us by the Saturn time gods, and we re-gift it back to them during this holy day holiday through their copyright gene patent. The word massa in Xmas is a Latin adjective meaning male, virile, android, yet also fruitless, geld, non-bearing, sterile. X is furthermore the Greek symbol for the 22nd letter of its alphabet, which is He, and is related to the allegory of Hiram Abiff, which is the son that was killed and taken out before the temple of the sun and moon, or Sol Om On, Sol Oman, sun and moon, could be finished in the age of Taurus, connecting directly back to the German Tau, meaning dew, while Rus is Turkish for red, the color of Santa, Satan. Therefore, Xmas is about the male son that had virility but was gelded and made fruitless through the positioning of the X chromosome within the male genome, northern hemisphere dominant position. This is related in complete allegorical details in such stories as the biblical tale of Samson and Delilah, whereby Delilah convinced him, the son, Samson, son of Sam, judge of Israel, Sol Oman, king of the Israel Saturn moon, to tell her the secret of his strength, which were his locks of hair. The locks indicate the key to the locks that kept the secrets of the sun, our former second son, hidden, and Delilah was the temptress that seduced him to give up his secrets, which is an allegorical way of depicting that the moon is what unlocked the sun. This is also why the scientific evolutionists have stated that we evolved from the monkey, which is accurate because the monkey is the moon key. Mon key equals moon key. Samson was said to have performed Herculean feats of strength against the Philistines, whereby a Philistine was an inhabitant of ancient Philistia, which was otherwise known as Palestine. This is why the Israel-Palestine war is so incredibly important to understand, because it is indicating that the judge of Israel, the sun that lost its rays, power, will come back and take down the temple of the mind after gaining enough strength before dying again. The king of Israel, the sun that lost its rays, power, will come back and take down the temple of the mind once its key is unlocked. This will strip it, Israel, Samson, of power for a short time before Saturn's star, which Israel is the metonymy of, will regain enough strength for its final act to then die once again. This is the cycle of phoenix red suns that is mentioned throughout history. The dead sun that will rise again during the 13th mini-age to take down the temple mind and assimilate all of the wisdom and experience that was accumulated during the full breath cycle. The events taking place between Israel and Palestine are the primary basis as to where we are in the storyline. Is Israel not the Herculean force that is attacking the Palestinians, Philistines? This is especially true now in regards to Gaza, and the Latin word Gaza translates as treasure, royal treasure, wealth, riches. Gaza is the last vestige point of the breath cycle, and is the metonymy for the royal treasure of consciousness wisdom absorption done by Baphomet, because Baphomet in Gnosticism means absorption into wisdom. Gaza is also the metonymy for Zion, as was displayed in the Matrix movies, where the architect needed to destroy Zion to reset the flaw in the Matrix code, which is the ultimate paradoxical contradiction of 1 and 0. Based upon the Samson Delilah version, Israel is going to have its strength taken away from it in some way. This will be seen as a victory for Gaza, Palestine, until Israel, Samson, gains its strength back once more to ultimately destroy the temple, which is a metaphor for the temple of our minds. The aspect of the android, from the Latin massa, could mean many things, even perhaps the possibility that we have been turned into biological androids, since this would be the only way we could be physically merged within a false matrix system, since we are, in actuality, spirit beings. It is all about adding more children to the energetic equation, as shown by the Spanish word más, meaning more, most, plus another. This is where we get the mathematical plus or addition sign from, which is simply an X that is rotated into this. The number 22 from the Greek chi indicates that the singularity of another birth has taken place, which is the basis of all the 1111 symbolism that many people have experienced in their own lives. 11 indicates that L is even, hence L even 11. And when this is added twice, 22, we have the paradoxical unity point of the polar opposites of male and female genes uniting to create another singularity being, otherwise known as an individual. The word individual comes from the Latin individuus, meaning indivisible, inseparable, as well as the Latin individuum, that translates as atom. Another atom, that is created through the L-even singularity birth process from the black hole sun of Saturn. A black hole is scientifically also known as a singularity point. A very common Freemasonic saying is, "so mote it be," because a mote is a small particle which I have depicted as an atom, and this is shown by spelling the word atom backwards, which makes the word mota. Mota is the Spanish term for speck and mote, whereby the English word mote also translates into Spanish as atomo, meaning atom, mote. So mote it be is truly about us being atoms, because we are the creators of suns and moons, and until humanity realizes that and takes its power back from those who stole it from us, we will remain slaves inside this false prison where the ET gods gain unlimited power while we endlessly make it for them. Stop giving them your power. Do people want a solution? Stop giving these entities all of your power. Another major step in doing this is to stop celebrating the satanic holiday known as Christmas and giving away your kingdom by handing over your God consciousness to them in the form of your pineal gland that is connected to your spine. Without us, there is no matter, because we are truly the building blocks of it. And it doesn't matter that we are so incredibly small, because the paradoxical lesson for us is that the little is the big. Without the smallest component, the largest elements could not be composed nor function. I'll be getting more into this as we continue along in this information. Continuing with the Christmas allegory, the word rist in Christ is the Dutch term for rosary series, as related to the rosary beads and the prayers done with this necklace to the Virgin Mother Mary, who gives birth to Jesus on December 25th. Another synonym for rist is the Dutch word rijks, which also means rosary, series, course, row, scale, and when pronounced in English, the word reeks is used to indicate something that stinks. This is associated with the stink of the sulfur moon, as I showed in the Golden Web Part 2, where we make the electrical energy for the gods through the creation of our sulfuric biological charges. This is further related to the Christmas mistletoe, where the etymological roots of the word mistletoe are said to be connected to the German Mist from mistletoe, which means crap, dung, droppings. As per the Rosary, the tradition of bead praying is in accord with the Immaculate Virgin moon egg that is being impregnated by the beads of the Rosary. The beads are the symbolic seeds, sperm, that impregnate the Virgin Mother Mary, Isis, of the moon, while people around the world are praying for forgiveness from the Mother Mary for their sins, moons. X is also the 24th letter of the English alphabet, and Xmas Eve is celebrated on the 24th day of December, which indicates the Eve electron antichrist light of the moon with its genetic double-crossing X chromosomes. The 25th letter of the English alphabet is Y, which is the male Y genetic chromosome that is gelded and taken from the sack, bag of presents, sexual symbolism, by Santa Satan on the 25th, and the evening 24th of Christmas by those who placed it symbolically underneath their pine trees as a gift to Santa Satan, Old Nick, who comes up the chimney spinal column and takes the gifts away from everyone as he slays the ribs, antlers that carry the chromosomes while riding around the world on his sleigh of reindeer. Ever wonder why so many music artists call their Luciferian master that they sold their souls to the Rain Man? Simply because he is the Rain Man, the one who reigns over humanity while drawing our genetic material from our spines. All of this is what makes it a merry or Merry Christmas every year, seeing that the Latin word mare means sea, and it is Dionysus Jesus that is a kind of sea fish that is being reborn on this day with the help of the Virgin Mary moonsleigh. Good tidings to all, as the Dutch word mara states, with a meaning of tidings. That's what the biblical good news is all about. The Rain Man is the one that makes it rain chromosomes and then fishes us out of the sea, seeing that the Latin chromis translates as sea fish. It is why we are humans, or the colored beings, since the English word chromosome is derived from the Greek chroma, meaning colored, pigment, and the Greek soma, meaning body. Humans are considered by the false gods to be the mental pigs, which is what the term pigment is implying. Pigment equates into mental pig, and the Latin sus means pig, kind of fish. Jesus is the reason for the season, and we are the mental pigs that provide all of our colored DNA to the gods, which is the entire basis for why people have been conditioned into putting up multicolored Christmas lights. Genesis 1:3 displays the work of the council of 13 bloodlines that form the Ark of the Covenant, which gave humanity the alien patented genes of Isis, hence Gen-Isis or Genes-is. A coven is an assembly of 13 witches. They form what is known as Sol, the servants of light. Christmas lights are a symbol of how we, humans, are providing the light of the sun through the rebirth process of the electron moon. The sun that humanity is currently aware of is made of mostly plasma and is what metaphorically dies and is paradoxically also reborn on December 25th. We make plasma during the ionization crossing of our spinal fire, and this plasma is what creates more suns. The sun or solar plexus inside of us is what regulates our own temperature and is the key to our heart, which is another allegorical basis of the Freemasonic Chai Ram Abiff story, with the three ruffians being the three elements that are rough on the sun and eventually destroy it. The three rough elements are earth, food, air, breathing, and water, drinking. The one element that we do not internally consume is fire, and therefore the other three elements that we do consume on a daily basis eventually snuff out the internal sun inside each of us, which produces the need to use the fountain of youth spine to create more sons and daughters. To keep the lights on, Satan, needs to collect all of the X and Y chromosomes on the 25th of December to keep the X10 Scion cord running to the dead son of Saturn, Zion. Sion was the site of Solomon's temple, mind, and this was taken out by the three ruffians before the temple, mind, could be completed. Zion is also a synonymous noun for Israel. Now we are mined for gold plasma to keep Sol on through our electrical ohms created in the moon, which is symbolized whenever anyone puts up Christmas lights around their pine trees or on their house, the kingdom or house of the mind. Even the traditional eggnog is about this process, with the eggs indicating the female moon eggs that will be impregnated through the Say-10 process of the noggin, which simply means head. We are mined for gold, and the dropping of the moon egg in females is known as menstruation. And this ties into us paying the debt hoc to Saturn through our minds, since the word menstruation is linked to words that mean mental payment. The Latin mensa, from menstruation, translates as mind, reason, intellect, plan, intention, while the Latin mensa gives us a meaning of table, course, meal, banker's counter. We are the meal energy that is calculated by the table during the course of the zodiac constellations and totaled by the banker's counter, who ticks off our electrical alternating current counts based on our individual AC counts. We are truly the chromosomes. Menstruation is obviously linked to the moon, as any woman can tell you, and this is shown by the Latin word mensis, meaning month, and the Latin language also confirms how we are paying a debt to the ETs through this rebirth process of sin, moon, with the word menstruum that translates into English as monthly payment, term, menstrual discharge, monthly sacrifices. If one wants to understand why the money changers were seen as the worst kind of evil in the biblical allegory of Jesus in the temple flipping the money changers' tables over, this is why. The allegory is also telling us that we need to flip the tables in our mind to ensure that we do not give these vampires any more of our sacrifices and payments. Even the suffix of ment at the end of payment indicates that it is all mental. A mental agreement based upon lies, a lie that needs to stop. The Greek word for world was cosmos, and cosmos means everything that exists everywhere. This biblical passage is telling us again that we are the light of the cosmos, the producers of suns and moons. Our light energy is being taken from us to pay a false debt, and this is also shown in the Greek language. The term light translates into the Greek phos, and is linked to the word phosphorus, which was etymologically derived from the Greek phosphoros, meaning light-bearing, from phos and pherun. As related to the Antichrist moonlight, phosphorescence is known as luminescence that is caused by the absorption of radiation, which continues even after the absorption period ends. This bringer of light endures without any sensible heat, and this is exactly what moonlight is. Light without any sensible heat, sense-able ability to sense or feel. The moon is the menstrual discharge that brings the monthly sacrifices to the false gods for the monthly payment term, as shown by the Latin menstruum, and also the Greek phoros, from phosphoros, which means tax, duty, impost, tribute, scot. We are not getting off scot-free in this rebirth cycle, since it is the sun that provides the radiation that is absorbed by the moon, which is sent as the rescue boat Antichrist light for the lost souls who are absorbed into it. And then during life, we pay tribute, taxes, to keep the cycle moving forward. The story of the Christmas elves further entrenches the aspect of Satanism in this tradition, because an elf, by definition, is a mischievous fairy that carries the synonyms of devil, fairy, imp. Throughout ancient folklore, Satan always had helpers that were portrayed as small imps, elves, and the abbreviation of ELF, elf, stands for extremely low frequency, or anything below 3 kilohertz. This is where the jinn smokeless fire demons exist, and even fire itself exists on a lower frequency level, which is why we need to raise the frequency in our reality through friction, heat, to bring about fire. The HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, has been sending out low-frequency waves into the ionosphere, seeing that the word elves is a scientific acronym for emissions of light and very low-frequency perturbations due to electromagnetic pulse sources. Extremely bright and extremely short, less than a millisecond, electrical flashes forming a huge ring up to 400 kilometers in diameter in the ionosphere. The extremely low frequency elf vibrations are the helpers of Santa, Satan. The scientists who created the ELVES acronym call it a whimsical acronym, and whimsical means that something is determined by chance, impulse, or whim, instead of by necessity or reason. So there it is. The scientists are telling everyone that they don't even understand why they chose the acronym ELVES to describe this electromagnetic communication process. Because that's exactly what it is, a means of communication between the government military elite and the interdimensional ETs that control this whole operation. After the 12 nights are finished, the Mass of Christ, Christ Mass, dies, which paradoxically brings in the sunlight again, coming from the Latin word dies, meaning day, daylight, anniversary, red letter day. The daylight that is restored through the moon rebirth process of human electron energy collection through the repayment process that corresponded to the Latin word dies in the Roman festival that was known as Dies Natalis Sol Invictus, meaning birthday of the unconquered sun. This Roman festival was celebrated as well on December 25th. How does this connect to the moon? During what is known as the winter solstice on December 22nd, the sun is at its southernmost point, while the moon is at its most northerly point, and thus dominates the northern hemisphere throne position. Satan is the moon, X chromosome, Satan, say X. And Santa is the anagram of Satan, who has always been depicted as living at the North Pole, where he comes to everyone's house, mind, and down the chimney, up the spine, to collect the gifts, not give them. Has Santa ever given you a gift? No. Only humans are putting their wares under the pineal trees as an energetic contract signature to Satan and the moon, which holds the northerly king throne position during the pagan Yule. Why else is Satan the moon? If we look at the Latin word cornatus, it means horn-like, horn-shaped, with the first word of corn indicating the maze that we are in, which is Pan's labyrinth. Maize and corn are simply more terms indicating our spinal ichor, manna, blood plasma, given to the fake gods from our spinal column. This is also the basis of the unicorn mythology, with the phonetic prefix of eunuch being an English word that means a castrated man. This is what the elite occultists would refer to as the gelding of the golden honey sac, with the uni representing the single male phallus that is being castrated for its corn, hence eunuch corn. In Egypt, the Sphinx is depicted with a cobra head because we are the Cob of Ra, hence Cobra. And in mythology, the Sphinx is depicted as a winged monster that propounded a riddle about the 3 ages of man. I would suspect Taurus, Aries, and Pisces, and killed those who failed to solve it. Oedipus, a king of Thebes, apparently solved the riddle, and the Sphinx was said to have committed suicide because of his solution. It is also interesting to note that in 1879, Lewis and Short Latin Dictionary actually translated the word sphinx as ape, chimpanzee, which may indicate that the gods see us as apes, chimpanzees, who can never figure out their riddles, and also ties us back to the moon being the Mon key that is responsible for our evolution. We have been blackballed, the black sun of Saturn, and shunned because of our sin, which is the Trojan horse moon gift. Satan has always been known as the trickster, while this maze of life that we are in is most certainly an astounding riddle. Going back to the aspect of horns, the related Latin term cornesco translates into English as become horny, sexually stimulated, become like horn, turn to horn. And that is why this commonly used sexual phrase has to do with the quarter phases of the moon, which are the horns of Satan, that turn people sexually horny. The moon's quarter phases are the horns of Satan, the horns that the Lucifer Baphomet figure has always been portrayed with. The Latin language portrays this aspect again with its word corniculans, meaning horn-shaped, horned, crescent-shaped, like the new moon. If that still isn't enough, corniculans also shares the Latin synonym of lunatus, whereby the prefix of luna is another name for the moon. Luna is Latin for moon, and luno is Latin for curve, make crescent-shaped. All of that makes for a jolly Mary and Christmas, since a jolly is a sea term meaning a yawl used by a ship's sailor for general work. What is a yawl? It is a 2-masted sailboat with the shorter mast at the fore of the rudder. This shorter mast is the moon, while the larger mast is Saturn, the city of Rome, because Rome has always been known as the city of Saturn. In the large cycle of the ages, there is another Christmas season that will bring about the rebirth of the dead sun that no one has seen yet. This is the red dragon sun that Saturn the Sage will ride upon at some point in this 13th zodiac mini-age, as depicted in the biblical book of Revelations. The 10 horns are the 10 groups of moons that orbit Saturn, while the 7 crowns upon his heads are the 7 ring groups of Saturn. Even NASA acknowledges that there are 7 Saturn ring groups. Saturn is the bald-headed sage that rides the dragon at the end of each great age, as told by the Chinese Qi Lin story, where the Qi Lin is a dragon unicorn creature that was said in East Asian cultures to appear with the imminent passing of a sage, which simply means the end of the ages. Sage is an anagram for ages. Many monks or priests in monastic orders will shave the top of their head in what is known as a tonsure, which leaves them with a ring of hair around their head that is simply a depiction of the rings of Saturn. It could very well be surmised that next to none of these monks or priests have a clue as to what their haircut is actually symbolizing. Saturn is the tonsure sage that will ride upon the dragon at some point during the capping of the 13th mini-age to finish the pyramid, which brings the middle fire of the heart, sacred heart of Jesus, to cleanse the breath. This is the Christmas of the ages that the secret societies definitely do not want you or I to know about. The Chinese culture definitely did not want anyone to forget about the red dragon, seeing that the dragon plays probably the most important role in the symbolic cultural history of China. By participating in the traditions of this holiday season on these particular days of the year, people are funneling their energy into the Satan Clause contract, which gives the moon our holly spine. Yeah, even the word holly is a part of this, because we are the holy spirits that are under the spell of the druidic priests with their wood of holly wood manifested magic. Holly translates into the Norwegian language as Kriston, with the prefix of Christ being related to the word Christ, originating from Christos, for anointed one. The Norwegian suffix word torn means thorn, as related to the thorns of Christ, indicative of our spinal column thorns, which is where the biological ionization crossing takes place that produces the plasma for the sun, and is the most important basis for the symbol of the cross. The cross of the double X crossed chromosomes of the Moon-Saturn-Yall connection that we can choose to stop by simply deciding to cease feeding the system with their satanic ritualism. Stop the cycle in your own life, and we can all stop the insanity.